with our first question. This is for, who stayed open during this storm? I know, Scott, you guys were open with A-Town and Don Tito. What about Liberty Tavern? And Tim, you guys were open?
We were open from Sunday.
Okay, since Sunday. So we wanted to ask you guys, first question up tonight, how did you manage to stay open and keep your wait staff, everybody safe? And Scott, we'll start with you. Go for it.
So for us, we were really lucky because we have some relationships with local hotels, namely the Hilton, which is right next door to here.
Okay.
And then the Holiday Inn in Courthouse. So we booked a big block of rooms in each of those because the challenge we saw on Friday night was that Friday night was when it started, so we were worried that if we sent people home and they fought through the storm on Friday night, they would then have to fight through it again on Saturday to get back here to work, and that wasn't really fair. So we put them in hotels starting on Friday. There was a big fun slumber party with all our staff, and everybody stayed local from Friday till Monday morning, easy walking distance right here to work.
Great. Mark, how about you guys? Were you open?
We were able to keep Liberty Tavern open all weekend, and in doing so, we had to close Lion Hall and send some of the staff from there to the Liberty Tavern. And we had one staff member with like an 85 Ford Bronco with huge wheels that was able to kind of go around and pick people up and take them back home all weekend long. So that's how we did it.
Your own Ford Bronco limo
There you go.
service. I love that. And Tim, you guys were open since Sunday.
Right. So
Water and Wall.
Sunday, I went in and I was able to get out of my house, but the rest of my staff wasn't. I went into the kitchen, no dishwasher, no cook, and I cooked the entire day by myself with my general manager who was able to walk to the restaurant and one server who was able to walk to the restaurant, and we ran the entire day with decent business by ourselves. And then today I picked everybody up because I wasn't going to do it again. And everybody's back to normal operation today.
Great, thank you. Javier, we'll start with you for this next question. Tell us what are some of the biggest challenges of running a restaurant?
Well, there are many challenges of running restaurants in Arlington or anywhere. But I think if we are, and we are dealing, we're completely open to deal with all these challenges and issues that we have in the restaurants. As long as the restaurants are busy and we are making money and we are profitable, I think everybody is willing to face these problems. In Arlington, in my opinion, the biggest challenge is the mentality of the people and the proximity to the city. The fact that we are so close to the city, to Washington, D.C., a lot of Arlington residents, when they are having a real date night, they decide to go to D.C. I don't know if it's more fancy or hip or whatever reason. But the people are across the Potomac, the residents of Washington, D.C., they have a real illusional problem about crossing the Potomac. So I think that's an issue. But I think this is changing. As Arlington is changing, a lot of people are willing to spend the nights here for the day nights. Yeah. The people in DC are willing to come to Arlington for the work of everybody that is here tonight. And also there are great names coming to the area, like Mike Sabella or Robert Wademeyer. I think the whole Arlington phenomenon is changing, and I think that's going to be very beneficial in the future years.
Thank you, Javier. Mikala, can you tackle that question as well? What are some of the big challenges running a restaurant?
Well, for me, it was going from a food truck in DC that was only DC based, and then making the decision to actually cross the bridge. I live in DC. I had originally looked in DC to find a location, and I always wanted to have a residential feel. So for me, Arlington actually was a huge, huge draw for me coming across the bridge to have my business be there. I wanted it to be a neighborhood joint. And we got lucky enough to find the perfect location in Shirlington, and it had everything I needed as far as the location, the size, yada, yada. For me, it was the fact that it was so close into DC. It's only one exit, technically. We are not on a metro line, so that was my only con in the entire process, was that our closest metro stop is Pentagon, and it's a very short bus ride to get to Shirlington. But for some of us, you know, across the bridge, we really think that other things exist. And it's been kind of a fun thing to bring friends over to Shirlington and have them almost discover this whole area of Arlington and Shirlington and the whole, you know, 9 yards. People are so familiar with Old Town, a lot of play. What I love is that Arlington now is starting to become a destination. I'm seeing a definite switch in people's mentality, and Mike Isabella and some of the other chefs that are up here and restaurateurs, I think
In and out, it's in and out.
it's cutting out on me. I know. Sir! I do have a good kitchen voice.
Okay, Mark, let's talk to you about what restaurant, since you've been here quite a long time, what restaurant in Arlington still does not exist, and what do you think it should be?
I think we have too many restaurants in Arlington at this time. I mean, a lot of people come to the restaurants on Friday and Saturday night, and they see the restaurants are completely full. But everyone has to keep in mind that the restaurants are open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week, and we have a lot of local competition. So not only DC and not only Tyson's and not only Reston, but currently there's a lot of local competition. You'll see a lot of restaurants open and close over the last 5 years, and that's sad. Put that work into a build out and into staffing a restaurant, and then have it be open for, less than a year or a year or two. I think the restaurant should be open for 10, 15, 20 years,
Great. Tim or Scott, would someone else like to tackle that question?
What concept is not open here yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of diversity here now. I think a lot of people have been waiting. I don't know if Yona qualifies, but I think a lot of people have been waiting for a large, full-scale noodle bar here, something like what you see in DC and in other major cities. But other than that, there's a lot of concepts here now. I guess it depends on the certain person. Tim?
I think we're missing fine dining. And that's something that's starting to see a resurgence in DC, and maybe it takes trickle down here to Arlington. But fine dining kind of died out. You start to see places like Tallulah and Willow go out of business, and those are places that are still kind of like the last bastions of fine dining. And I'd like to see that come back a little bit, because that's something I think we're missing, because we have a lot of great, what I would call fine casual restaurants, but we don't really have a fine dining restaurant right now.
That's great, thank you. Well, to add to that, why do you guys, and whoever wants to pick up this question, why do you feel like the Rammies have really ignored restaurants in Arlington? You rarely hear of like chefs getting Rammies from Arlington. Anybody want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I think it's what the two people here have already touched on, is that it's just the buzz. There are so many people in and around DC that are always going to respect DC as the epicenter, and DC is the hot spot and then the cool place where all the trendiness is going on, to the point where a lot of DC residents will flat out clearly say that to you. They'll say, well, I'm not going to cross the bridge and go to Arlington. I don't go to Arlington. I live in the city. And I think it's a lot of that that attitude that surrounds it, that more search is going on for those places in DC as opposed to Arlington.
Mikala, Javier, one of you want to comment on that as well?
What I hope that's the last year. I hope I get nominated and win this year, like the best new restaurant in the area for 2015. But anyway, I don't know. I think that in the past we didn't have a group or a number of restaurants big enough to shine in the Rammies, and I do think that's changed a lot in the last few years. Mark, you are not the only one, so there's a lot of new restaurants coming that are great restaurants, and I think that's going to change, and I think this I hope it reflects this year because there are amazing restaurants opening in the area. So it will be 2015 will be the year.
How do we nominate you? That's the biggest question. We want to make sure you're in.
Oh, I think it's close, the nomination. So.
Or too late. Or too late.
Too late.
What about? Can you guys talk about local government here? Do they make it very difficult to open a restaurant? Could they be more supportive? I mean, we can just trash them if you want. Whatever you want to say.
I think that Arlington County is pretty aware of the issue, but it is pretty difficult to open a restaurant from the construction permits and all the permits needed. It's even hard to build a house. So, they have some work to do with pushing the projects through, I would say.
Well, can you elaborate on that? Why? Why is it so? What specifically makes it so difficult? Is it it's the permits?
It's just time. Yeah, every
time.
day matters. So every day that you're paying rent or that you have free rent and you're pushing the open date back further, every single day out of the month matters to a restaurant because of the margins. So time is of the essence, and the county government needs to do a little bit better job of pushing things through faster.
Gotcha. Anybody else want to comment on that, Tim?
So we're currently opening a restaurant in DC, and Arlington, in comparison to DC, was a lot easier. And so I think that just goes across the board in terms of Virginia. Vienna was a little bit easier than Arlington. So maybe as you get further west, it gets easier. It probably has something to do with density. But I think what Mark said, the time is the biggest problem. It's always, you got to count down to when you have to start paying rent. And, there's lots of levels of bureaucracy that you have to get through to open a restaurant. And, Arlington is probably right in the middle to me in comparison to DC and Vienna at this point.
Are you taking notes?
So average.
Anybody else want to comment on that before we move on? Mikala.
So being a DC-based business before I moved over the bridge, DCRA on every day that I've ever been in there is a fight. It's a challenge. There's 18 other things you have to do besides take a number. For me, actually, Arlington was a little bit of a breath of fresh air because of coming from that. We did have a permit expediter. It's not to say that it made things move along any maybe faster. I will say that the liquor license and some other things that I thought were going to be a lot more difficult to obtain, they actually were not as bad. But with that said, with construction and everything else, we were delayed probably a good 2 months that we were butting right up against needing to pay rent. And that starts becoming a very scary number, because on top of your construction and being cash poor towards the end of projects, then you've got, however much you're paying in your rent, and then you've got staff that you need to probably bring on and start paying. So it all starts butting up against each other. I will say that the thing that actually was very interesting for me that we got caught up on was our storefront. Our storefront and zoning actually got caught up the longest out of all of our permits. For no good reason, to be honest with you. It took 2 months, as opposed to the other ones that were more like 6 weeks or so with the permit being pushed on. So we actually had to close our patio the day that we got our permit. So that's unfortunate. It's a big loss of revenue.
Thank you. And Javier, you want to comment on this?
I think it's a great day to ask that question because the roads have not been clean or paused for 4 days. So it has been extremely difficult to have the staff to come to work and for our customers to come and enjoy a good hot meal. But seriously, I do think that the Arlington does a good job. I mean, they have great programs. They have the Boston bid. They have the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. They have Lounge Bid Lounge, sorry. They do a good job. I agree with everything that Mark said. Bureaucracy is a big problem. But I also think that Arlington, even if it's not an Arlington problem, the ABC regulations are crazy. And I do think that Arlington should take the initiative to meet with other counties and really work in things that, as a business, it makes it very difficult for us to compete with DC businesses in terms of happy hours, marketing, everything that is related, discounts, everything that is related with alcohol. And I do think that that should be addressed.
Got it. Thank you so much. Next question for you guys. Tell us what's more difficult, attracting customers when you first open or keeping them? Anybody want to tackle that one first? Mark, go for it. Tim, all you.
So definitely keeping them. Water and Wall was one of those restaurants that, like our first restaurant, Maple Ave, opened for 3 years without anybody taking notice. Water and Wall was the complete opposite, where everybody was coming through the door on day one. 2 years later, it's all about retention and staying relevant. And I think probably everybody will attest to that staying relevant is actually probably the hardest thing, because there are so many new restaurants opening, so many like different areas to visit that are now coming back to life. And so staying relevant within the dining scene and the restaurant scene has been the biggest challenge. And a lot of that is keeping your name out there, or keeping your food good. And that's really what you think is the core of it, is keeping the food good is what keeps people coming back. But even today, it's like there's a lot of places in Arlington that I'll say that have really good food that just don't stay relevant, and they end up going out of business, and it has nothing to do with them. So it's been a big challenge, and we'll just say in the industry as a.
Thank you. Who's next? Who wants to tackle that?
I would agree with what Tim said. I don't know if it's just something specific to Arlington or everywhere, but everybody wants to try something new. And when a new place comes, everyone wants to go there. Everyone wants to tell everyone that they checked it out. They hear their friends talking about it. Oh, it's that new place. And so that first year can kind of really make or break you as far as the customer experience you provide. And is it something that people are going to come back for, and what type of overall culture are you going to build? And then as the years drag on, it definitely is a challenge. You are no longer that new, fresh place, and it's, what are you going to provide that excites people enough to keep coming back day in, day out from then on?
Anybody else want to? Well, I was going to say, kind of piggybacking on that, how do you all feel about Yelp? Does anybody do you ever want to write your customers just to piss off after they give you a bad review? I mean, honestly, people have horrible taste, and they go on Yelp and give you 1 star. You're like, you wouldn't know good food if it hit you.
I got to give props to Scott for his commitment to being aware of Yelp and his responses there. And he does an incredible job. And I think Yelp is a necessary. I think it's a good tool for us to learn more and more about what people like about our businesses and what they don't like. It's a tool that restaurateurs didn't have in the past, and I think that it's valuable. As much as I wake up in the morning and hate to read the reviews that are negative, it gives me an opportunity to go out and fix whatever someone didn't enjoy about the restaurant.
Okay, so overall you would say that Yelp or a review site is helpful?
Yes.
Okay. What about anybody else? Anyone else? How do they feel about Yelp? Mikala, you seem like you have strong feelings.
I do, actually. I think that as an opening restaurant, you have to look at it and see if there's trends happening. I think that we've all, as owners and chefs, we tend to take things a little personally sometimes. It's sometimes hard not to respond immediately, so I've actually, my AGM reads them first and then lets me know if it's something that I need to personally respond to, because
you have
otherwise,
an editor.
I mean, because I'll be honest, I think it's relevant, but I also think that there's some nitpickiness to it that just has zero to do with what you're doing as an operation and starts to boil down to being nitpicky. Somebody called me out on my wallpaper. I mean, it's just kind of it's not relevant at a certain stage. I'm not taking the rest of your review seriously because you're picking at things that are not truly relevant to what I'm doing. So I want to listen to people's critiques. I want to understand what their guest experience is, but I also find the people that really do want you to understand what their experience was normally email you as well. They might also Yelp it, but they also email you. And as an owner, I can't tell you how appreciative of it I am that somebody takes the time to email me as well, because Yelp also gets lost in a whole sea of, things. I personally will respond faster when it's an email as opposed to
a Yelp review.
To a Yelp review.
Yeah. Anybody else want to weigh in on the Yelp?
I would agree with what everyone said so far. You can definitely learn a lot from it. There are a lot of people out there that are just giving sort of honest feedback, and those can be very beneficial. I like this, I like that, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and you can learn from it. There are, and why I think it gets under every restaurateur's skin, there are sort of the Yelp experts as well. These people that sort of, I guess because they go to a lot of restaurants, they become a chef overnight, and then they have these crazy opinions. I had one this week from Don Tito, not here at Don Tito, and
Okay.
we do pictures of mimosas on brunch. And I know with 100% certainty that 1.5 liters of champagne, an entire jumbo bottle goes into each one of those pitchers. And the Yelper said, I know for sure that it tasted like only about one glass of champagne was in these. So those can be kind of frustrating when you know that this person is kind of stating something that's so far from the truth, and
Right.
that there are people out there that might read that and think, well, mimosas are a big part of my brunch experience and get a little boozy brunch going, and for that reason, it might deter them from coming to the restaurant. So it's good to learn. It's always going to be frustrating. I think all the restaurant owners I've ever met, I don't think I've ever had one person say, I love Yelp or Yelp is great. It seems to be a very common enemy of
More
everyone
Yelp
out there.
reviews.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all of you have really unique stories. So Javier, I thought we could start with you because SER was actually kind of a pop-up spot, correct? You and your wife had actually won a contest to have the restaurant there.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because it seems it's very unique.
Well, we are. I already have my business plan ready. I knew what I want to do. I come from fine dining, and then we went to very casual dining, always related with the Spanish food. So I thought that it was a niche for not one way or the other. It was having great food with great service, like fine dining, but at no fine dining prices. So I was looking for investors, looking for sites in DC, and this opportunity came. So we won the contest. It was a restaurant that was already there, so it didn't need a big investment. And at that point, I had to value I put everything in a balance and value like risk versus success. And I live around the corner. I live in Carling Springs as well, so there will be a good quality chain of quality life for me and my family. And then we didn't have to spend so much money, so it was less risky. We decided to do it. So far, we're very, very happy.
Great. That's great. I love it. Terrific spot. Mikala, let's talk to you. What's the difference as far as going from food truck to restaurant?
The biggest one is if I leave the lights on in the restaurant, it still starts up in the morning. Because there were many a times where in this kind of increment weather, we'd leave the headlights on in the truck and you go to start it and then the entire thing shuts off. So it's a very big difference between
Oh my God.
that part. It's also just the fact of having deliveries. That's a whole new experience for me, is actually having purveyors come to me instead of going into Restaurant Depot. If anybody's been to Restaurant Depot, you understand what for which I talk about. It's a nice change.
But was food truck a good start for you? Like, is that something you would recommend for people if they're just starting out? Or
Yes and no. I think that these days, when we started, it was 2010. There was
Okay.
maybe 20 of us that got on the road. We had no idea what we were doing. We all sort of banded together. The government didn't know what we were doing. The police didn't know what we were doing. Nobody knew what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing. I would say these days now with the regulations and the way that they've changed them and the way that there's a lottery system and it's a very different business model now. I don't necessarily recommend trying a concept out that way. For me, that's just how it happened.
Okay.
And I did the truck out of an economic downturn. I had a consulting business before this that actually opened and designed restaurants for people. And I had to lay off half my staff with my business and thought, well, this food truck thing is sort of starting and I might as well try it. It was a small investment in relation to opening up a spot like this. And did it, thought I would only be doing it for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then it went into a whole different direction.
Yeah.
So the truck gave me at least some R&D into all of this. It gave me the insight. I had no idea that Hawaiian food was sort of this weird pocket niche around here that nobody had ever thought of doing. Apparently Spam had not really hit the mainstream around here. You still don't know what Spam? It's very delicious. Just come on in. So for me, it was, it gave me almost that $1 million worth of R&D to be assured that I had a following to start the next step of this. Whereas I think if I had just gone into a restaurant, I probably wouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Scott, I feel like when I hear your name, it's always about your genius marketing. So what is your secret? Because I really feel like A-Town, Dante, you've kind of honed in on a niche. So how did that come about? I mean, did you just know, like, this is the way you guys were going to be successful?
I think it really came from the partnership that we developed. My partner, Mike Cordero, has been in the business for 40 years and been a chef of almost 30 years. So kind of what I would say our niche is that with A-Town and Don Tito, we do bars with really good food. So, you know, to put our food against some of the restaurants in Arlington, I think would be a little ambitious as you get towards some of the best restaurants, but I think we could safely put our food against you know, any of the other bars out there. As far as the marketing, the great majority of what we do is social media. That's where we all got it from. That's what we do to pump most of our products. And then the events, sort of the party scene that we do, we just try to do things that have never been done in Arlington before. So Sunday Fun Day is very big here. It's our biggest day of the week out of all 7 days. It's you know, sort of a wild party from 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. You know, as brunch ends, the party cranks up, and so we try to come up with concepts that people have never seen before, and then put them out there and see what kind of reaction we get. And so far, people have really been turned on by that. For Sundays, even during football season, we have football on, you know, almost 40 TVs in here and a big screen projector, but we play music and live DJs the whole time. There's no game sound. So we try to find different ways to mix it up, live entertainment performances, stay very aggressive with social media and all that stuff. So it's worked so far.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that because you guys have really utilized social media. And I want to find out, too, after with the rest of the group, how you guys use social media to your advantage. But Mark, you have excellent food. Liberty Tavern, Lion Hall, it's delicious.
Thank you.
Was that always the #1 focus for you? Food first, and then sort of, because Liberty Tavern's great. That can turn into a party atmosphere after 10. But your focus seems to be on really good food.
Yeah, we've been blessed to work with some really great executive chefs, 2 in particular. Our first chef, Liam LaCivita, and our current chef, Matt Hill, had a ton of experience when we were able to find them. It was the #1 most difficult thing, I think, about opening the Liberty Tavern was finding the right chef to partner with. And it's a really important relationship as you go. Also investing a lot in your management staff as well and making sure that the food is consistent and that it's hitting the table hot. It takes professionals to ensure high quality food, and it really is an art. And I've been lucky to work with some really good artists.
That's good. No, just keep shaking the mic. So, Tim, we learned a little bit in your bio about walking away from an engineering career to a restaurant career. How have you felt about that? Was that the right move for you?
Now it looks like the good move, but I mean, we opened in 2009, and then 2010 we got a storm similar to this. And I'll say we went through a couple years where it was just like, oh, shoot. We've made a big mistake. And there are many times that we said that and still say that to this day, actually. But, you know.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And maybe one of you can jump in because we're going to do some Q&A in the audience here very soon. Tell us a little bit how you guys utilize social media. Obviously with food trucks, I mean, I can remember several years ago, that was the only way to find you, right? You tweeted out your location. Yeah. So how do you all utilize social media for your business? Javier, we'll start with you.
I hate social media. It is.
No, Javier, no, you can't say that.
I want to be in my restaurant with my customers, talking to them, taking care of the food and the drinks and the service. And everything that is not to do with that, it distracts me for me is the most important because I have a vocation of service. That said, it's important and you need to do it. So you either hire somebody that does it for you or you keep doing something that you don't like. And I like to post things about my staff, I like to post things about my customers, but to me, to be take away from the restaurant to be in front of a computer, it's not my thing. It's torture. So we just try to, our intention is to keep doing the same thing that we in the restaurant, but in a computer. It is not about promotion, it is not about advertisement. We just want to create the connection with the customers, our staff, and the restaurant. Being real and natural.
That was the quote of the night. I hate social media. Now we know. Who else wants to wait? Obviously, Scott, we need to talk to you because you guys do a fantastic job of social media.
Yeah, I don't. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You know, I think it's kind of the environment that we create, coupled with people wanting to post that they're at one of our venues. So by creating an environment that's either so, you know, the party scene here that's either so aggressively supercharged, or whether it's that Don Tito is sort of still in its first year, so it's got that newer sort of cool, hot, you know, hip hotspot type thing. We try just to be so different that people want to show other people that they're here. You know, whether it's checking in on Facebook, tweeting, posting on Instagram. It's the environment that we create within the four. Basically, by creating something, or yeah, got it. So it then makes them want to post online, and the check-ins kind of go from there. Those check-ins I see as really being solid gold. We try to show from the ownership level down that we're, you know, the owners are. We're proud of what we do here. So then the manager check in on a given day for work, and on and on and on. And then you create that culture that people see that the people that work there are excited about being there. The owners are excited about being there. Then the customers naturally are going to be excited about being there too. And the social media machine kind of goes on its own from there.
Gotcha. Okay, Mark, how much do you love it when I come to your restaurant and Instagram my burger and I have to take 50 shots before I can post one and tag you in it?
I love it. I think the social media works great for two things. Scott does a great job with the programming. We try and do a good job with that, getting the word out on certain things that we do that people find interesting. A great restaurant is one that evolves over time and that changes its specials and changes its menus and keeps people engaged and is exciting. It's not one that opens and has the same menu and the same deal for years. And then the other thing is creating a family that's bigger than the four walls of the restaurant. So it's telling our guests, you know, when we're in the building by checking in, or sharing a funny of someone's spilling something while they're making it, or, you know, it's creating it's personalizing the restaurant to our family of guests via social media. So I think it's a two-pronged approach.
Okay. Tim, do you want to weigh in on that, on social media? Do you love Instagram?
My wife takes care of social media, so I'm good. It's an important thing. Unfortunately, I think it's made the restaurant industry a little less just like Yelp. So
okay.
you know, you get to know a restaurant over social media. You get to comment on a restaurant over Yelp. I'd rather you just talk to me.
One last question before we talk to the audience. You five all seem very supportive of one another. Is that normal of the restaurant business, or do most people hate each other?
I personally think it's normal, and I think it's smart. I think the competition that we face from Washington and DC in particular is fierce, and I think that we all need to work together to make the different neighborhoods in Arlington destinations, and that extends beyond restaurants. That's theaters, it's well-curated retail, it's revitalizing some of the shopping districts, making sure that our commercial real estate is full. We all need to support one another right now.
Yeah, that was great. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There definitely is this stigma and this thought out there that it's like every man for himself, and people say, what do you think about that new competitor, as if we're all out to get each other. But I do agree. Arlington is in a very transitional time right now. For us to, even being, having two venues that are both getting older, I wish 50 more places opened, or, I wish more open. I mean, even if I look in the difference in neighborhoods, in Clarendon, you get so much foot traffic. In Boston down here, you don't get that. So, I've been telling people forever, people have asked me about opening. I'm happy to work with any new restaurateur, any new bar owner that wants to open in Boston, because we need that vibe here. We need that foot traffic here in Boston. And I think that, it's that thing about all ships rise together. And again, we talked about the competition with DC. We talked about with Arlington getting bigger and bigger and bigger in recent years. There still is that it's not DC proper. It's not the big city. So the more successful venues, people have touched on Robert Wiedemeyer and Mike Isabella. The more of those big names that come here, the more it's going to legitimize the city as a whole, and the more that I think all the people that have been here for a while will get some of that feed off. Because when you get those restaurants where it's hard to get a table, people need a place to get a drink beforehand, or they might just go to another restaurant because they can't get into one of those restaurants.
Right.
So it always can be a big help.
Oh, that's great. Anybody else last before we take some audience questions? You're good? Okay, who has a question for any of our panelists? And I hear we're giving out ARL Now t-shirts to people who ask questions. Oh, and you have one too. Here you go. I'm going to give you this mic and hope it works. Go ahead.
You mentioned something about fine dining.
Okay, so a couple questions there. How do you romanticize the food? Am I following along? How do you... The food is the centerpiece, but you also want to know how you kind of develop fine dining when everything seems to be so casual. Okay, Tim.
I think at some point you'll have a vision in your mind of what the restaurant is and what the food is and how the service is, and then you open, and then ultimately your customers should tell you what you should be, or what they want you to be.
Okay.
And I think especially with our first restaurant, Maple Avenue, we figured out very slowly what our customers wanted us to be. And it wasn't until we turned around and, I wouldn't say conformed our vision, but made our vision in line with theirs, that it started to take off and allowed us to end up here in Arlington. And I'm starting to see that here in Arlington as well, in that like we have to, you have to listen more to what the people want, more so than what you're, you can't be a perfect world on a plate. You can't. And if you get into that hole, you're going to put yourself out of business real fast. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me and say, oh, you should stick to your guns and what you wanted to do. At the same time, you're in a business that's very competitive right now. And to make people happy is what you're in business for in the end, not because you are some like molecular gastronomy chef. You're in the business to make people happy, and that's what you should do.
Got it. Great answer. Anybody else want to take that on about fine dining? Okay, no problem. Yes, go ahead.
Two quick questions. One question back to the permits. Are there unique permits to Arlington County that don't exist in DC? And the second question I have for you is, how do you monetize or put valuation on metro access vice plentiful parking? When you look for sites, how do you put a value on whether you're near the metro or whether you have plenty of parking, or what are those situations? So 2 questions: the permits, and you also mentioned the permit expediter. If you could speak to that as well, what the evaluation of that?
Thank you.
So on the first question with the permit expediter, I think a lot of us that have done construction or have done projects either in DC, Arlington, or otherwise, these days it's a necessary evil. It's not cheap, but it does make a difference. It means that I personally don't have to stand in line to push other things along in the project that need to be pushed on. As the sole owner and chef and everything else, I need to be working on other parts of the business and not standing in the line to get the permit. So for me, it was a necessary evil. It isn't I think some people have the time to stand around, but I think most of us, I don't know if you guys got permit expediters for your operations. Okay, see, well, for me, it was a necessary evil, and I knew that going into it, that we were going to hire a permit expediter. Our architect was the one who hooked us up with the person, and that was a separate deal aside from the design and everything else that we did. I'm not sure if that answered. Unique permits in Arlington? No. I think it's all relatively similar in any jurisdiction that you're going to go into, and especially if you're going to serve liquor. I think that's, being a fast casual as opposed to a full service restaurant, it does make a difference between how you're doing things. And then you were asking about if it was metro access versus plentiful parking. For me, it was trying to find the best possible scenario, pros, cons, and to weigh all of the options out, and then to decide if that rent was worth what I wanted. Ideally, yes, we would have been near a metro. I think that makes things from a staffing point of view a lot easier as well. For us, that's actually been a bit of a challenge, is to get people that either take the bus or have a car. It's not very easy these days, because I think a lot of people are just doing away with their cars in general. So for me, it was weighing both options. For where I'm at, it's great that there is plentiful parking. It's definitely a bonus that most of our staff can figure out which garage to go into, and same thing for our customers. Living in DC, I pay for my parking space dearly. It's not pleasant. If I do have to circle a neighborhood 18 times, it puts you in kind of a cruddy mood to even come in for dinner when you do have to circle and circle and circle. So I'm glad that we do have the parking. So for me, if it was going to be kind of the pro and con situation, at least we have the parking. Believe me, I would love to have metro access. I wish, I'll never understand why parts of the city don't have metro access, but that's just a whole nother discussion point.
Thanks, Mikala. Anybody else want to jump in on that, or are we good? Yes, you have a question.
Obviously, you guys have a vision. You guys took that vision. Did any of you do any market research? Just out of curiosity.
Anybody want to tackle that about market research?
Yeah, I think we always do some, as far as you get reports about how many people live within a certain mile radius. I don't know, at least for me, at the end of the day, it's really about bringing a vision to life. Do you think people respond to your concept? This is definitely a city. There's a lot of people here. I think restaurants, as Marcus called them, an art form. They are that, and you have to figure out what's not here. How are people going to respond to what you create? And you're always taking a chance. You can do all the market research in the world, and you get these big chains that have millions of market research dollars, and then they go into a location and they still fail. At the end of the day, it's like it's like a band or a symphony or something. It's how do you put all the people together with this vision and meld it into something that the public will respond well to, because all the market research in the world can never really tell you with 100% certainty if your product's going to work or be well received or not. You really got to believe in yourself and the other people.
Oh yeah, do you have a follow-up to that?
So you think the market will find you if you're good enough? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say, yeah, you put something there and people will find it. Yeah, I mean, A-Town here is the perfect example. Many people told me before I opened up, you can never do a high volume bar in Boston. It's not ready for it. There's not enough foot traffic. People won't come. People won't leave Clarendon. People won't not go to the city to go to Boston. But if you create something that's good enough, there's a million examples out there. Restaurants create a food product that's good enough, or service that's good enough, or all those things together. It's like, why do people wait in line 3 hours for a table, or why do they try to make a reservation 2 months in advance? If the product and the service is good enough, they'll do whatever they have to do to try to get it. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Is that good? Yes, you had a question.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the panel, I know in DC recently they're doing crackdowns on the bar crawls, how it's going to affect the Arlington small businesses, bars, and just your views and opinions about the bar crawls. I know there's been a lot of controversy in recent years about them.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I happen to know the guys really well that run one of those big bar crawl companies. It really depends on the venue, first of all. If you are a restaurant or a thriving restaurant, and specifically on the restaurant side, that's primarily what you do, the bar crawl might not be that attractive to you to have a bunch of young 20-somethings in your establishment getting drunk and trashing the place. But for a lot of these venues that are specifically bars that only cash in on the alcohol business and maybe only cash in on the Friday and Saturday nights down in Clarendon, it can be really important for them to have those big days and have their staff make a lot of money and pay a lot of their bills on those big days. At the end of the day, I am pro. I don't think it's really maybe it's a disruption for the neighborhood, and I respect that. But no real law is being broken by having people at your bar. When the bars fill up on Friday and Saturday nights, it's obviously totally legal. If the bars fill up on Saturday during the day, it's legal as well. And I do think that I do think you'll see more of a crackdown in the future. At the end of the day, they do just create a big disruption in times when people aren't ready for that. But at the same time, what can you really do to stop it? The fees that have been put in place are there, but they compared to what some of these aren't even bar crawl. I don't know how everyone else feels. I guess to each his own.
Yeah, we're pro the bar crawls as well. It's been proven that they can be done safely and in a very controlled manner with a set limit on the amount of participants. And while we don't participate, it's very good for business across the board because it does exactly what I was talking about earlier in terms of bringing new guests on the metro from DC and from the West to Clarendon and making Clarendon a fun place to go.
Thanks, Mark. You had a question. Yes.
As small business owners, what's something that you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Did everyone catch that? So small business owners, what do you wish you knew back then that you know now? Mikala, Javier, do one of you want to tackle that?
How hard it is. You need to spend there every single day, every single night when you have a family. I run restaurants all my life, so I know how difficult it was. But at one point, I step out of being in the floor every single day, and I think I forgot how hard it is to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week. But I'm happy now, so that's what I was missing. So that's why I came back.
Mikala, what about you?
I think I forgot. It's kind of like for women, you have a baby, and then like 3 years later, you're like, you know what, sounds good, another baby. I think that we forget sometimes that it's 24/7, and for me right now, it is 7 days a week and no breaks. I think my knee and my body forgot about that part of it. So I think knowing now, 2.5 months, 3 months into this, I think that I might have done a stronger sous chef or kitchen manager position. Now I'm kind of looking for that to relieve some of my time. I think that my management staff was really smart in the beginning, in the first couple of weeks, and they said, you need to be off of the line as much as possible. You need to be out on the floor, you need to talk to people, and I fought them tooth and nail on it. And so I'm really glad that I have done that. Right now, staffing, we all go through staffing issues. I'm still back on the line during the day. But I'm glad now that I see myself being off the line. I'm glad that I did that, and I'm glad that I'm still pushing to make that balance, because I think otherwise I'll just be back there and hiding sometimes.
Thank you. Anybody else want to discuss that question? What do you wish you'd known then?
I forget too.
What do you wish that you knew now? What do you know now? Yes, exactly. I wish I knew how much everything matters in terms of like cost. So when I negotiated rent, I wish I knew how much it would matter now. You know, triple net, I wish negotiating that really mattered. Percentage rent, food cost, labor cost, every hour of OT. I wish I knew when I opened the restaurant how much that actually mattered off the bottom line, because that really truly affects your bottom line severely. And the moment that you gap on that, you start losing money. And that's true for every successful restaurant, for every unsuccessful restaurant. Everything matters, not just like, oh, why did you just dump a pound of flour on the floor? The are you doing? Because that matters to me.
Thanks, Tim. It looks like there were some questions over here. Yes.
If you have a concept that you think would work really well, let's say a restaurant in another city that you saw that works really well that Arlington doesn't have, that you think would work well here, and you have the money or you have investors to fund it, but you don't know anything about the restaurant business, what do you really need? Is it a good restaurant manager? Are those easy to find? Or is it a chef that's going to manage and run the whole operation or order all the food and things like that? Can you give any insight into who you need to hire in order to get something started?
I think what we've learned is to try and find a great managing partner, someone with a piece of the action, and a lot of times that's someone that's young and hungry, that has some experience, but they have a lot of brass, and they can surround themselves with talented people.
Try this microphone and hold it at the bottom.
Hold it at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what our issue is.
Is that our issue? Okay. So finding a talented managing partner, and then like Tim said, the rent really matters. So finding that location with the right rent structure for the amount of seats and what you think you can do in sales, and having a good landlord.
And good landlord, I like that. You want to weigh in? Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with exactly what Mark said. You need the managing partner. The risk you run with what you said about managers or chefs is that they always could walk. Whereas if you can find a managing partner, even if they put a little bit of money in, they're probably going to stay. And then the only real struggle you might have there is how well you get along and that relationship, how it grows. To what you pitched, I really am attracted to those ideas, and I think that those ideas are really hot commodities. There are tons of ideas that are being well executed in other places. And that's certainly how I try to think and create, because we tend to focus so much on what's going on around us. So, so-and-so opened up this place down the street, or DC's opening this, or out in Tyson's Corner, this is opening. But you can find a really great idea by looking at, what's opening up in Chicago or, Austin and really anywhere, because there are so many ideas popping up at all times that have not been done yet in this area, that you really can be very successful by finding that right idea and then finding the right team to put it in place.
Thank you. Anyone else want to discuss that one? You had a question.
So I actually have two questions. So my first question is, I've heard a lot about food and I've heard a lot about service. I haven't heard very much about beverages or wine. What role does beverages and wine or cocktails play in the success of your business?
Oh, I love that. That's a good question.
My second question is, I would consider myself a local of a couple of establishments here. Javier, I have a great relationship with. What emphasis do you place on locals or regulars as part of your establishment, and how do you bring people in like that?
Great. Okay, anyone talk liquor, beer, wine first? How much of that is your business? How important that is to your business?
For us, having a cocktail program was extremely important. I think that a lot of people would assume that a Mai Tai would be going with a Hawaiian concept, so I worked tooth and nail on our cocktail program, and I made sure that we had like a good executed. I didn't want to be too crafty because I don't want to take 20 minutes to get somebody's Mai Tai on the table, but it was also something that I wanted to make sure that we were doing a good cocktail and not just mixing things together. Our wine list was actually something that I decided to go off beaten track, so we chose a lot of wines that were not from normal areas. We wanted to be slightly unique with it, and because it's a Hawaiian concept, nobody knows what it is. I figured the servers are going to be talking enough, and they can talk about the wine program too. So for me, it was going with a smaller wine program and things that were just a little bit off the beaten track, not going with the oaky buttery Chardonnay type of venue. That's not to say that my mother loved an oaky buttery Chardonnay, don't get me wrong. As far as attracting locals and regulars, for us, we were lucky. We had kind of that regular business from the truck. Now we're finding that in that Shirlington area, for us in general, we have a lot of residential in the area, and so we're finding that people are coming down and they're living there. They want to come in. They want to support local businesses. So for us, it's just making sure that we take care of neighborhood people as well, making sure that they understand it's okay to bring their kids in. It's okay that their kids throw Cheerios on the floor and do whatever they need to do, and to make sure that they feel like they can come in and it's flip-flops or a t-shirt, or if they want to wear a suit, that's fine too. I just want to make sure that we welcome everybody in. I think it's how you have your hospitality read to people is how you get people to come back in the door. We really try and train people on that hospitality factor of it, making people feel like they're welcome no matter what.
Anyone else for that question?
I'll just chime in on the regulars portion of it. Regulars can be everything for your business. They really can. If you read all the hospitality books out there by some of the big restaurateurs out there, I remember from reading the Danny Meyer book that's what it's all about. You get those people coming in a few times a week, every week, sometimes almost every day, and really. Here we go again. That can really play a large factor into paying your bills. As Mark had touched on, it's a small margin. People don't realize that in the restaurant industry. They think that, they see your bar, your restaurant is packed, oh, you're making a killing. But, you really, your margins are give or take maybe 15, 20%, maybe a little bit better depending on how you're operating and how much sales you're doing. So it's important to get those people coming back. Those stats are out there. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something like, it's 10 times harder to attract a new customer than it is to keep one that comes there. And that's because people find their groove. They find the places that they like, and then they go to those places religiously instead of going out there and looking and trying something new. And so it can be so important. We try to really develop a family atmosphere. Something else Mark touched on making people feel like they're a part of things. We have a lot of customers that have been at A-Town since day one from 3.5 years ago, and now they're like, I'm a part of the A-Town family, or, I've known those guys from when they first opened the place, and they just keep coming back and back and back again. And that can be such a big asset to your business to have very dedicated following.
That's great. Another question, was there anybody over here you wanted to ask one?
Actually, this is a question about it. Kind of when you establish your identity. I guess it's more a question for Scott and Mark than anybody else. But when you establish your identity, how hard do you push back if the clientele is not doing what you expect them to, or you have say, a younger audience or an older audience, or it's not exactly what you expected? How do you it all, or do you embrace it, or at what point do you allow that to happen?
Thank you.
I think it's extremely important that you're constantly listening as an operator and you're constantly learning and adjusting. I think that is key to being a successful restaurant. I touched on it earlier with evolving, but maintaining a culture of learning and being a learning organization is paramount to a restaurant's long-term success.
It's a great question, and it's something that we've definitely struggled with, especially in this location. And the reason for that being is that we were kind of branded from day one as sort of a party place, a party atmosphere. A-Town is a wild party bar, Sunday fun day, all that stuff. And a lot of people didn't realize that we do offer a great happy hour and dinner environment as well. And we still have people to this day, being 3.5 years old, who have probably been here 100 times to drink and party, and they'll come in at an off hour for some reason, be it a sporting event or something else, and try the food and go, oh my God, the food's actually good here. It's good food, and they just don't realize it. So it's a very good question, and it's something that we've struggled with, because once you get branded, it's hard to flip-flop on that. And we have tried to push back, not necessarily change what we do well, because the party atmosphere here, and even at Don Tito as well, is a big portion of how we earn our revenue. But all we try to do is continue to do the right things in the off hours, happy hour, lunch, brunch, dinner, by providing good food and service. And we have been able to see it really build over time. In the beginning, we would, sort of have Friday and Saturday nights be super packed, the rest of the week be very slow, and over time, just by providing good food and good service, it's built and it's built and it's built, and it's just something that we have to believe and hope and try to continue over time, to change up menus, to make sure that we're providing the same high level of service here in the dining room that we're providing in the bar. But yes, it can definitely be a struggle, and I've seen people struggle with it vice versa as well. I've seen people who are restaurants try to get a little bit more of that bar biz, and they have trouble with it as well. So it can be a struggle, but I think in modern times, people are starting to open up more and more to the fact that places can do both. It used to be people would say, okay, that's a bar, that's a restaurant. Now it seems like a lot of places are kind of crossing over and doing both, and it's getting a little easier in time, but it will always be a struggle.
Thanks, Scott. Anyone else for that question? I know you have a question. Yes.
Right now, it's the Metropolitan Washington Restaurant Week. I know several of you are participating in that. When you're deciding to make your menu for that, are you trying to attract a certain kind of customer? What goes into making those menus?
Thank you.
First, it's probably to see what will appeal to a lot of people, rather than just, not everybody's going to sit there and eat foie gras or, livers. The other side is execution. Restaurant Week is probably the craziest week, because Valentine's Day is just one day. Restaurant Week is an entire week, and you have to execute that menu that entire week to, more than double what you normally do in a week. And so, when we plan, okay, how do you spread this out across the kitchen so that we can execute this? Because when we execute it well, then it comes out good on the plate. If we're just trying to do everything super difficult, sometimes that just doesn't come across well.
Want to talk about restaurant?
No, Tima was exactly thinking the same thing I was thinking. It is a combination of execution and be appealing to all your customers. But at least we just have been open for 8 months. So for us, the summer restaurant week and this restaurant week is extremely important, because you get 1,000 of new customers this week that they never try you. And I think we are going on and beyond, and for the prices that are charged in restaurant week, we're being very aggressive and give a great offer, because right now we're depending on that, and it will be a great publicity for us.
Thanks, Javier. We have time for one more question. Does anybody else have one more? Yes.
What have you guys found to love about being a restaurant/business owner?
What do you love?
Like, what have they found to love?
Okay, what have you found to love about being a restaurant owner? Does that make sense? Grown to love?
My mother and my 2 sisters were great cooks. My father and my brothers, they were gourmand, and my wife loves to entertain. So I just learned that since I was a kid. So that's about it.
For me, my mom was actually a Pan American stewardess back in the 60s, and I just remember her love of talking to people and enjoying entertaining and everything else, and that's kind of where I get it is, I love to talk to people and to hear their stories as well as, talk about mine, because let's be real, I love talking. I really just truly enjoy being open and seeing new faces and to give them good food and to also have them experience something that they've never seen before, because we are the only Hawaiian restaurant out here right now, and so again, pushing the spam really hard. I do love it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just something you can't describe because, as Javier said, it is grueling and it wears on you in time. And the long days and the late nights and the hours and hours you spend in here and always having to go back to that same place, it wears on you. So you have to truly be passionate and be in love with the feeling that you get when you're inside your place and it's busy. It's a feeling that you can't describe. To just be able to look around and see, that one of your venues is packed with people, having fun, smiling, enjoying your food and drink, enjoying the place. It's not even about really the money that you're making in that moment. It's just about that you have sort of brought something to life and created an environment that people are enjoying. It's so thrilling, and it's probably the only thing that gets you over all those moments of dealing with permits or Yelp or all these other struggles that we've talked about. Well, that really can wear on you in time. Then you get back to that moment where your place is packed and everyone's loving it, and you remember, oh, that's right. That's why I'm doing this.
I think that's well said, Scott. The only other thing is just seeing the staff learn and be successful, and being and giving one of our salad prep people kudos on a really nicely plated salad, and then kind of seeing the look on their face. There's all these teachable moments throughout the day, and there's thousands of successes when you go back to the table and the guest is eating the salad and then they're like, this is phenomenal, and you're like, I knew that was really good. I could see it before it went out of the kitchen. And if you love the business, you will succeed in it. That's how I feel.
That's great. Tim?
I'm happiest when the staff's happiest, because I know they're happy because the customers were happy. And so that's typically how I judge my happiness. And a lot of it comes down to the staff, because that's who directly interacts with the customer, not me. And so that determines a lot of whether or not I'm pissed or happy.
Thank you. Round of applause for our panelists. Thank you guys so much. That was great. Spot Luck is here. Please check them out. ARLnow.com. We're in love with you. Thank you for letting me be your host. I'm Sarah Fraser, and I have a podcast on iTunes. Hopefully you'll check it out. It's called Hey Frage, and we'll have a lot more to come. Thank you guys. You're amazing. Thanks.